Rebecca came to Sodor, she worried that the others were better than she was. Rebecca tried very hard to do her best, but I know that sometimes when I try too hard, I make mistakes. When I first came to Sodor, I left the station before I was coupled up to my coaches. And when Rebecca came to Sodor, she kept leaving earlier than she was supposed to. And soon, she was so early that passengers were missing their trains, and she was getting in the way. And that was a mistake. Being too early was not so useful after all. But it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes them. That's how you learn to do things better. Just like I did.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time. Do you ever find it difficult when things change? Or you have to get used to something new? I know sometimes I do. When Hugo first came to Sodor, we weren't very kind to him. We had never seen an engine like him before. But once we got to know him, we realized that he was actually very nice. Gordon was very unhappy that both Edward and Henry were leaving the sheds, and that Nia was going to be sleeping there instead. But in the end, he realized that changing where they slept didn't need to change their friendship. And he could even be friends with Nia too. Sometimes, all it takes is a little time to get used to something new. And before you know it, it almost feels like it's always been that way.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time.
Everyone makes mistakes, but things can get much worse if we don't admit them and say sorry. Once, I was too embarrassed to admit I had made a mistake. So, I made up an engine called Jeffrey and blamed him. But that made things even worse. Saying sorry can be really hard to do. Once, Diesel found it so hard to apologize to Daisy, he only said sorry when he thought she was asleep. James also found it very hard to say sorry, but in the end, he apologized to everyone for blocking the bridge. Even though it's not always easy to say sorry, it is a very important thing to do. It shows your friends that you care about their feelings.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time!
Have you ever thought about being a hero? Heroes aren't just in the movies. Heroes can be anyone who does something good to help somebody else. Like Philip. When James almost fell off a bridge, it was Philip who came to his rescue. And Stephen once risked his own safety to stop Gordon from going over a broken bridge. And when I thought I was rescuing the actor, I wasn't trying to be an action hero. I was just trying to keep the actor safe. You don't need to be in a film to be a hero. You just need to help somebody in need. Maybe you'll be a hero one day. Maybe you already are.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time. Have you ever looked really carefully, hoping to see something? Sometimes, while looking for one thing, you spot a whole lot of other things you didn't expect to see. Stephen was looking for a way out of Ulfstead Mine when he found something else. Treasure! And when I was in China, nobody expected to see a giant panda in the wild. I kept seeing other animals. But I'm glad I didn't give up looking, because eventually I spotted some giant pandas. Some animals need our help so they can live happy lives, even in the wild. There are many things you can do to help, but the easiest and best thing you can do is find out all about them.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time!
Do you ever wish you could do things that your friends can do? I know I do. Sometimes I feel it's not fair that I can't do everything. Once, Bill and Ben teased Harvey about his crane and made him feel like a very funny-looking engine. But Harvey was soon reminded how good it was to have a crane after all. It meant he could do something very useful indeed. Rebecca couldn't think of anything that made her special until she stopped comparing herself to the other engines and realized she does something very important. Rebecca sees the best in everyone. And that makes everyone feel good and want to do their best. Just think how great things would be if we were all a little bit more like Rebecca.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time!
Do you ever get scared? Sometimes when I get scared, I imagine all sorts of things. One time, Marion saw some dinosaurs and got very frightened. She thought they were chasing her. But then she found out they weren't real dinosaurs, and she wasn't afraid anymore. I also got scared when I thought I was going to see a real dragon in China. And I was really afraid. But it turned out to be something fun. It was just people dancing and carrying a big puppet dragon, and I loved it. Sometimes I get scared of things I don't need to be scared of. So next time you feel scared about something, talk to someone. And maybe it won't be so scary after all.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time! Learning new things is fun, but sometimes we all need a little bit of help to understand something new. When Dowager Hatt tried to run the railway, she kept on making mistakes and caused a lot of confusion and delay before Emily helped her learn which engines were the right ones for each job. Nia didn't know how to read numbers, so Annie and Clarabelle taught her. Nia is a very clever engine, and she learned very quickly. Sometimes everybody needs help. And everybody should be given the chance to learn new things. Maybe you'll learn something new today too. It could be reading or singing or learning about numbers. Or even how to move a cow when she's blocking the line.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time! Have you ever played a game where you pretend something is real when it isn't? I like to use my imagination to pretend, but sometimes it's hard to know what is really true. One time, I imagined I had wings like an aeroplane so I could fly. But it was only pretend. I didn't really have wings. Merlin thinks that he can make himself disappear. But he can't really make himself invisible. It's only pretend. Sometimes it's important to know what's real and what's pretend. But playing make-believe games can still be fun.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time! Have you ever played a game that got out of hand? Sometimes a game can stop being fun, or even hurt someone's feelings. One time, Diesel played a trick on Paxton by getting all the Diesels to hide from him. Paxton was very upset and thought all the Diesels had left the island. Another time, I was racing with Max and Monty. It was good fun, until they took the game too far. They raced over the railway line and could have caused an accident. Bill and Ben thought their game of Hunt the Truck was very funny, until they were the ones who couldn't find their truck. Edward was trying to teach them that it's not a good game unless everyone who's playing can enjoy it.
Come on, Thomas! It's time to go.
See you next time!